Hi everybody, welcome back to the Virtual Vintage Computer Festival. I'm Chris Davis. I'm from Wilmer, Minnesota, by the way. My day job is a software developer. I spend a lot of time in my workshop down here just playing with things. I'm not an electrical engineer, just a hobbyist, and that's all I've ever been, but I've always enjoyed kit building and I've always enjoyed creating things, so what a wonderful time to be alive. I'm just going to show you a little bit something I've been working on lately is an Apple I emulator. Now, why? I mean, there are several, well, at least two, maybe three Apple I kits out there right now. Why? Because because I wanted to understand the whole process from the ground up. I wanted to, get inside Steve Wozniak's head and understand what he was thinking, what he was doing. And also, there's a fantastic book out there. It came out about 15 years ago. Tom Owad, don't know if I'm pronouncing that last name right, wrote a book called Back to the Garage, Recreating the Apple I. And it's literally a how-to manual on making an Apple I. So I basically followed Tom's instructions based on a lot of Vince Brielle's work. That was, 15 years ago or more, and very interesting. And I'm really glad I read that, read Wozniak's autobiography, and read as much as I could about it, and just wanted to see what I could do. Here's something I've been working on for a year or more. This is a reproduction of a Rev Zero board for the Apple II, and why? I don't know. I mean, even if I get this up and running, nobody's going to appreciate it other than me and maybe a few other guys, but I want to do it. Basically, I want to recreate a Rev Zero Apple I with, the integer ROMs, which I have. I actually was able to get those off of eBay. And, not that I want to... the thing is, I need to put notes on this stuff so that someday when I pass away and my kids find this and they think, oh, that's an original Rev Zero, let's sell it for a lot of money. I want people to understand. It's a replica. I don't want to be deceiving anybody. But I am working on an Apple I right now. I'm just looking for something I'm missing here. All right, well, this is my Apple I. And I call it the Open Apple I. When I get it finished, this is not the final version. I still need to create a version of this board with the 44-pin slot connector because I want to make sure that this works with the Apple cassette interface and anything else that the original Apple I could work with. I got this idea. There's a couple projects on the internet that use an Arduino Nano. And what the Nano is used for is kind of, handling the input and the output. For example, actually that doesn't. All of the input and output goes through my PIC32 here. I've got some custom code on there based on Jeff Graham's work with the VT100 emulator. I've made extensive modifications to that code for my Apple I emulation. So the data comes in, through the USB keyboard into the PIC32, goes through the Nano, and then into, the peripheral interface adapter. And here's a 6502 processor. Here, let me zoom in on this for you. Here it is. It's kind of funny. I've compared this with photos online and stuff with like Vince Brielle's emulator, and a lot of the chips are the same. There's a few minor differences in there, but honestly, it's a lot of it is the same. So let's fire this up, and let me show you what I got going on here. Just need to plug in the USB cable into the Nano, and going to take just a little bit to fire up. There we go. There's some copyright statements on the top. Can I get that reflection off of there? There we go. There we go. Okay, and I think it's ready to go, so I'm going to, I need to change this. I want it to, the original Apple I, if you see the videos on the internet, I mean, I've never actually had my hands on one. They're quite expensive, if you haven't heard by now. There was, some flashing at symbols that would happen when it was first powered up. So I need to add that into this PIC 32. So we hit reset, and there we go. Just like the traditional Apple One, it gives the backslash and the cursor. Now you see my cursor right now is just an underline. I need to update that so that it's the actual cursor from the Apple One, which was the @ symbol. I also have a USB keyboard plugged in. Not really very vintage looking, but it's a keyboard and it works. So I can do, right now we're in the WASMON. So really all we can do is, we can look at a memory address. Here, let's do E000.E0FF, and we'll get that range of memory. My ROM here is just a copy I got off the internet. It has integer basic in ROM there. So we don't have to load it from a cassette or anything, because we can't right now because I don't have a cassette interface hooked up to it. If we do E000R for run, it'll put us into integer basic. So there we go. We're in integer basic, and we can just type in, whoops. Okay. Now you see I messed up. I don't know if you can see that. I got an extra J in my print, and you'll notice backspace doesn't work. What? Well, back when this was made in 1976, WAS didn't add a backspace. There was no backspace in the Apple One. What you had to do was, that was not uncommon at the time, was type a rub out character. So we do an underscore, and that means we've rubbed out the T that's prior to that, and we do another underscore, and we've rubbed out the J that was mistakenly typed. So now I can just type T and finish my line. Hello, world, close quotes, hit enter. Oh, okay. I maybe didn't rub out enough, or I maybe got an invisible character. And let's just type the whole line again. P-R-I-N-T. Hello, world. And we list, and there's our program, and we can run it. And hey, oh, end error. Was required in integer basic that you have an end statement. So now we add the end statement, we run it, there we go. Now we got an error-free program operating there. So honestly, with the state that my Open Apple One, Open AC1, whatever I'm going to call it, is in, all you can basically do is play around in the WAS monitor and run integer basic and type and not save programs. Now, one of the ideas I had, let me show you this. You'll notice on my board here, I've got an SD card module. And I got this little ribbon cable here connecting the SD card module to the SPI connector on the Nano. My goal there, now when I get the 44-pin connector on here, this should work with the Apple cassette interface. I have yet to try it. I probably need to get myself an Apple cassette interface and hook one up to it. But I wanted to have, one thing I liked about my Altair Arduino was the fact that you can have programs on an SD card and just easily load them. So that was my goal. Actually, I've added some code in the Nano that intercepts the keyboard input. So if I type catalog, which was not an Apple One command, you're going to see it gives a list of the programs that are on the SD card. And these are basically text files that are Apple One programs. You'll see I've got an 8K Star Trek in there. I've got a chess program in there, a lunar lander. And the whole idea was I was going to be able to type load lunar.vas to load that lunar basic program. Now, here's where I have stalled and haven't really done anything. But what that's supposed to do is it's supposed to read the text file and enter it as if you're typing it on the keyboard. Well, obviously I've got some timing issues here. You see it's just putting up what it's doing is it's skipping characters because it's trying to dump it as fast as it can, but the Apple One is not able to accept the data at full speed. So I need to add some, basically what I need to do is I don't know if I need to monitor something on the peripheral interface adapter or something on the CPU, but I need to wait for it to tell me it's ready for another character or ready for another line. that's just, I know what I have to do. I just haven't been able to come up with any time to do it. And, if I can get this to work with the cassette adapter, I don't even know if that's necessary to have it, but I thought it was a neat idea. So where do I go from here? Right now there are a couple kits you can go out there on the internet and buy right now, which is exactly what I have here, which is a small circuit board, the components, and you can build yourself an Apple One. The only difference with mine is instead of composite output, I'm using a VGA connector, and instead of a PS2 keyboard, I've got a USB keyboard. Is that enough? I mean, is that enough to make you want mine as compared to a couple others that are out there? Maybe not. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. But I want to take this a little further. The original Apple One never had a keyboard or a case. It was basically a bare board. You were even supposed to provide your own power supply for it. But here's something I saw at the Vintage Computer Festival in Mountain View last year. This is the actual computer. Let me zoom in on it. This is the actual computer that was at the Vintage Computer Festival. It is available on eBay right now. It's only $1.5 million. And even though this is not an official case, this is a case that was made by the Byte Shop. I actually read up on the history, and one of the guys that was kind of peripherally involved with the Apple One, his brother built these cases. It was made out of koa wood from Hawaii. And so I think I read there are maybe 6 of these in existence right now. Well, what I want to do is, there's the pictures from the auction. There's the case. What I want to do is, I want to allow you to make a keyboard. My oldest son is big into making mechanical keyboards, and he's got some good designs, and so we're going to work together, come up with a mechanical keyboard that has the Cherry MX or Gatron switches in there, get some custom keycaps that look like, something from a keyboard from that era, and maybe laser cut the pieces for the case, and have this, maybe instead of a solid wood top there, maybe have a plexiglass top so you can see the board inside. And that's kind of my idea, is make a complete kit with the Apple One board and the Byte Shop case and a keyboard. And, like I said in my last video, I'm very cheap, so I also want to keep this as something that is affordable. What do you think of that? That's kind of my idea for this kit that I want to make available. But the first thing I want to do is I want to finish my Apple One. I want to get this thing running and loading software and working like the original Apple One used to work. Thanks for being part of the virtual Vintage Computer Festival. And visit my website. It's down below, addwaterandstir.com. You'll get to see some of the other stuff I've been working on and my enjoyment of this vintage computer hobby. Thanks for joining me.